Ho ho ho! A Merry Christmas to all. This is gonna be a video where we talk about the things we want to see in the future for BTD6. I asked all of you in the Discord what you wanted to see apart from paragons etc. that we know are coming eventually. As for the background gameplay, I wanted to do a game of Chimps with very limited space, and I settled on Spice Islands using only the smallest island. Over the course of this year, we've seen some pretty cool updates. We got boss challenge, new bosses, map editor, a lot of fun balance changes, and also this abomination of a map. What we really need is a reimagined version of Cornfield, or maybe 5 of them. Some ideas mentioned will be my own, but most of them will be from you guys, so know that I may not agree with all of these ideas myself, but I want to bring up all kinds of ideas from the community as a whole. And we got a bunch to go through, starting with Sandbox. A long time ago, you were not able to create paragons in Sandbox. A lot of people were very vocal about why this would be a thing. NK since changed it, so now you can have them in Sandbox so long as you have unlocked the tower and you've actually created it once in an actual game. This should for sure be a thing with the VTSG as well. Currently you can't create it in Sandbox at all for some reason, so this would be very nice. Secondly, people also want to be able to send multiple rounds at once, presumably to simulate races, and they also want to be able to send out bosses. Sending out bosses is something I'd really love too. It would be such a freaking nice thing to have that I've wished for a while now. Another suggestion I got was adding modifiers so that you could test things for the sake of challenge creation, etc. And that leads us nicely into the challenge editor. First of all, increase the round limit. It's currently set to 300 for some reason, but this is very limiting for anything related to late game, and I don't see any reason to keep this limit, so I would like to see it increased to a round that is high enough that it won't ever be in the way. So set it to like 1,000, or better yet 10,000, or hell, why have one at all? I've also seen suggestions from people who want to be able to set the game mode of Challenge Editor to a race or a boss to create challenges that are not just beating a certain amount of rounds. Next up, adding modifiers to Boss Challenge. This is something that a lot of people wanted pretty much as soon as the Boss Challenge came out. Obviously, I'm sure a lot of the things mentioned in this video will be things that NK already has on a whiteboard somewhere that will be slowly implemented along the regular updates. But this would be really cool. Boss Challenge alone added so much replayable content, and being able to set your own modifiers and restrictions, just like in Challenge Editor, would create so many new crazy fun challenges with bosses that you could play. Speaking of bosses, a common wish among boss players is apparently to remove the map split for co-op bossing. The idea is that this limits creativity and also causes some problems when doing ranked runs to get those medals. And about those medals, something I ranted about in a few videos a long time ago is that the medal for solo and co-op is the same, even though solo is by far the most competitive. Sometimes I see names that I've never seen before on the leaderboard with like 10 first place medals, and I'm like, yeah right buddy, those are participation awards that your mommy gave you, they mean nothing. Being able to differentiate solo from co-op, or better yet being able to tell exactly how many players were in the game where you got the medal would be very good, since right now there is nothing to differentiate between the best players in the world and people getting carried on a leaderboard without a lot of competition to begin with. Something that got voiced in the Discord that I also mentioned before is that races, least tiers and least cash events can sometimes be pretty darn expensive. I myself don't do a lot of ranked runs because it just takes too much time for too little content, but sometimes I just can't help myself. When I do play, it's usually least tiers or least cash, and the amount of monkey money I spend on a single boss event can be like 20 to 50k. And that's where I have to stop because I can't justify buying another 50k monkey money for 50 euros just for one event. Or actually I can, it's a great idea, use my creator code. These game modes are very expensive because for something like least cash you have to cut it as close as you can, meaning that you will die over and over and over, and that gets very expensive really fast during the later tiers. Now on to some other stuff. I've heard that some people really like tier 5 insta-monkeys. I'm not sure if they actually use them or just collect them, but they want a way to be able to get them outside of the collection events. The most common suggestion is for there to be a small chance to get one when reaching a very high round. On screen right now is the way that it currently works. When reaching round 100, you get a random insta-monkey whose tier is dependent on the difficulty of the map you're playing, and every 100 rounds after that, it's always the same rewards as if you were on an expert map. So basically they want a chance for a tier 5 insta-monkey worked in here somewhere. Maybe at 300 plus, maybe only for expert maps, I don't know, but somewhere. I also, of course, got a lot of people saying they want less lag in free play. I don't think this is going to happen because I'm not sure if any solution is viable, but I'll say them anyway since these are not my suggestions. One suggestion was to lower the attack speed and increase the damage once your game starts lagging to lower the amount of projectiles, which there is a bunch of problems with doing. And the other suggestion was to make the game multi-threaded, which there is probably a good reason for why it isn't. A lot of the operations would probably get messed up, and even if they didn't, the amount of work it would take just to reduce the lag for a few players, I think we just have to wait for CPUs to get the single core performance of a race car. Another few things I don't think we will be seeing, but would be nice and was a common suggestion, was having multiple saves per map and also being able to see tower stats in game. Right now you can't really tell how much an upgrade actually helps you in terms of attack speed or damage. It usually just says something like tower gets a lot stronger, but you don't know by how much. For that we use the wiki, but of course it would be nice if there was a way to access that in game because, well, we're lazy. The problem is that there's just too much information to display. The only way to do it that I can think of would be to have a small information button next to the upgrade that if you click it opens up a larger window displaying the information. Sometimes even this window would not be able to fit every stat, so it would also need to be scrollable. Again, this is probably not going to happen, like ever, but one can dream. I mean, this video is all about shoving a heckload of work down the throats of those poor NK devs. They must be sweating right now. Some buff icons are still missing, for example Striker Jones Pierce to any tower in his range, the energizing totem, and probably a couple of more. And also it would be nice with a even faster forward so that we can click the button again and go from 1x to 3x and then like 5x or 10x speed. Keep adding Paragon synergies, and also speaking of Paragons, a very popular wish was for there to be more information when creating a Paragon. There is probably enough room to add all of it nicely so that it summarizes how many pops you have, tiers, totems, and then states what degree you will get, so you don't have to guess and back out and in again over and over, or use a third-party Paragon calculator and spend a bunch of time calculating what you should even put in as parameters. Right now, you can also sacrifice more cash than is actually needed. For example, sacrificing a few extra thousand doesn't always get you one more degree. So maybe the slider should change from being a cash slider to a degree slider that changes the cash injection to the lowest amount needed for the degree that you set, since there is not a single situation at all where you would ever want to aim for anything in between 2 degrees. Now on to some more quality of life stuff. For co-op, a retry last round feature, so we don't have to use the continue feature all the time. It's not just that it costs monkey money, it's that it resets the ability cooldowns, which tampers with your game, allowing you to get further than you otherwise would, which is basically considered cheating. So if there was a way to retry without having that happen, that would be nice. All modes should have that. Also, add a way to techbot giving money to another player so you don't have to spam the button all the time. And also add a mute to the sound effect of receiving money. That really kills your ears having to hear that 5 times a second. Placing and clicking towers behind the HP, cash, or this red X can be really tough. There is no functionality of clicking the HP or money anyway outside of Sandbox, so if there's a way to make towers behind these elements more easily clickable, that would be sweet. We now have a lot more hotkey functionality than before, but we still can't hotkey every ability because there's just too many of them. We have 12 hotkeys for abilities, but if you have more than 12 abilities, some of them cannot be used via a hotkey, and the order of the abilities at the bottom of the screen can sometimes change when backing out or selling a tower. I honestly still don't know exactly how that works, but anyway, I received a suggestion to be able to rearrange the order of the abilities so that you can place the ones you actually want a hotkey in a position that actually has a hotkey. Opening up a tower shows the cost of every upgrade. One suggestion was to also add the cumulative cost for getting to that upgrade so we know what the total cost will be. Being able to see how much extra damage you got from your debuffs would also be cool, either as a counter on the debuff tower itself or on the towers that got the extra damage. And lastly, nudge mode or snap mode. Placing towers in very tight spots can be very frustrating. If there was a built-in feature to nudge the cursor 1 pixel in any direction, or a snap feature that snaps the cursor to the nearest pixel that the tower can be placed, that would be a big convenience. Some players already use third-party nudge mode applications for this, but it would be nice if one existed in-game, especially for iPad players, I heard. And that's it. Some great suggestions from all of you. Obviously some of these things will happen eventually and some will not. NK has been very good at throwing in different quality of life changes spread out over their regular content upgrades. They have to focus on bringing out new content, of course, so most of the things we talked about today are sort of second priority things that will slowly be implemented in the regular updates. I just wanted to make a video with all of the suggestions from both myself and all of you, and I think we put together a nice list. If you're not in the Discord and you have suggestions of your own, be sure to put them in the comments. And with that, I wish you all a Merry Christmas, and I'll see you in the next one.